The courtroom buzzed with low whispers as people filed into their seats. Maya Grayson sat alone at the defendant's table, hands folded neatly in her lap, eyes lowered. She looked small, quiet, almost fragile, exactly how her husband wanted everyone to see her. Ethan Grayson walked into the room moments later, radiating confidence. Tall, polished, handsome in a cold, clinical way. His suit was immaculate, his hair perfect, his expression smug. A man used to winning, a man convinced he would win again today. Behind him trailed his entourage, his wealthy, judgmental mother, Patricia, his younger brother, smugly grinning, his lawyer, a shark in human skin, and sitting in the back row, pretending to be just a friend, his mistress, wearing a red dress far too bold for a courtroom. They took their seats like royalty entering a throne room. Ethan glanced at Maya. She didn't look back. That irritated him. He wanted her to see his superiority, to see his victory walk. For 15 years, he controlled everything she did. What she wore, what she cooked, who she called, how she spoke, how she breathed. And now he planned to take the last thing she had left, her sons. "Good morning, Maya," he said loudly, making sure the whole room heard. "I hope you're prepared. Today is a big day for you." Maya didn't respond. Her silence used to make him feel powerful. Today, something about it made him uneasy. His lawyer leaned in. "Don't worry, she has no case. The judge will rule this fast." "Of course she will," Ethan smirked. "My wife has no backbone." Still, Maya stayed quiet, not shaking, not sweating, not breaking down, just quiet. Something was different about her, but Ethan was too arrogant to see it. The hearing begins. Judge Ramirez entered, a sharp-eyed woman known for her fairness and her intolerance for nonsense. She adjusted her glasses and scanned the file. Case number 4481, Grayson versus Grayson. Custody, asset division, and allegations submitted. Ethan's lawyer stood confidently. "Your Honor, we'll begin by proving Mrs. Grayson is mentally unstable and unfit to parent. We have testimony from family, co-workers, and medical professionals." Lies. All of it. Maya knew exactly which professionals he referred to, the ones Ethan paid to write fake reports. The judge nodded. "Proceed." The public humiliation. Patricia Grayson, Ethan's mother, took the stand first. Her voice dripped with fake concern. "Maya is troubled, Your Honor. She's always been emotional. Sometimes she cries for no reason. She forgets things. She's overwhelmed easily." Maya closed her eyes briefly. She remembered all the nights she cried because Patricia told her she wasn't good enough for her son. Ethan watched her, pleased. Next came Ethan's brother, then a neighbor, then a former coworker Maya never even met, all repeating the same script. She's unstable, she's emotional, she's overwhelmed. It was a performance, and they played their roles perfectly. Ethan leaned back, legs crossed, smiling at Maya like he already won. Ethan takes the stand. His lawyer stepped forward dramatically. "We call Dr. Ethan Grayson." Ethan strutted to the witness stand, swearing in with a practiced, sympathetic expression. "Dr. Grayson," his lawyer began, "can you explain why you're seeking full custody of your sons?" Ethan sighed heavily, pretending to be devastated. "Maya is struggling. She cries a lot. She forgets appointments. She becomes easily overwhelmed. I worry for our boy's safety." Maya kept her head down, but her fists clenched tightly. "And financially," the lawyer continued, "she has no job, no qualifications. I've always supported her. She couldn't survive on her own." The mistress smirked in the back row. Ethan continued, I don't want to hurt her, Your Honor. I just want what's best for our sons. They need stability. They need someone reliable, someone strong. Maya lifted her gaze slowly. Ethan faltered, just for a moment. There was something in her eyes, not fear, not sadness, but something he had never seen before. Strength. A strength he didn't understand. The judge's turn. Judge Ramirez raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Grayson, she said, thus far you have not responded to any allegations. You have chosen to remain silent. Maya nodded once. Yes, Your Honor. Do you deny these claims? A slow breath, a calm voice. Yes, Your Honor, I deny all of them. Ethan scoffed loudly. Maya glanced at him, just once, just enough for him to feel a crack in his confidence. The court thinks she's helpless. The judge continued the questioning. Maya, do you have employment? No, Your Honor. Do you have family witnesses to testify on your behalf? No, Your Honor. Do you have a lawyer representing you? No, Your Honor. Gasps rippled through the room. Ethan grinned, victorious. Maya, the judge asked slowly, do you have any evidence to counter these accusations? The entire room leaned in. Ethan folded his arms, confident. His mother smirked. His mistress smiled smugly. His lawyer exhaled in relief. For a long moment, Maya said nothing. Then she lifted her head fully for the first time, her eyes calm, sharp, focused, and she said, not today, Your Honor. Whispers exploded instantly. Patricia whispered, pathetic. Ethan smirked widely. See, she has nothing. Even the judge seemed surprised. All right, Judge Ramirez said, we will reconvene tomorrow for the final hearing. Mr. Grayson, Mrs. Grayson, be prepared. Gavel. Session adjourned. Ethan walked past Maya, leaning close enough for only her to hear. You just lost everything, he whispered. Tomorrow you walk out of here with nothing. He waited for fear. He waited for tears. He waited for her silence to break. But Maya simply stood, gathered her purse, and walked away calmly, not broken, not defeated, not afraid, because tomorrow was the day she stopped being silent. Tomorrow was the day Ethan would learn who she really was. Tomorrow was the day his entire world would burn. The morning after Clara was cast out, the sun rose over the Dalton estate with a deceptive brilliance. Inside the breakfast nook, the atmosphere was celebratory. Gregory sat at the head of the table, scrolling through his tablet, while Juliana picked at a bowl of organic berries, already discussing the renovation she planned for her new home. I was thinking of tearing down that old-fashioned library, Juliana said, her voice like sandpaper on silk. It's so gloomy. We should put in a glass-walled yoga studio. And that garden Clara spent so much time in, it's far too overgrown. I want a minimalist rock garden with a heated pool. Gregory didn't look up. Do whatever you want, babe. The house is yours. I've already contacted the lawyer to finalize the transfer of the title today. Clara is a ghost now. She's probably sitting in some cheap motel right now, wondering how she's going to pay for her next meal. Evelyn, sitting across from them, sipped her Earl Grey with a satisfied smirk. I checked the security footage this morning. She walked all the way to the main road in her stockings. The neighbors must have thought she was a common vagrant. It was the perfect ending to a very tedious 12 years. But the celebratory mood was cut short by a sharp, insistent ping from Gregory's tablet. Then another, and another. What is it? Evelyn asked, her brow furrowing. Gregory frowned.
It's just some glitches in the pre-market trading. Dalton International stock is fluctuating, probably just some minor volatility due to the news of the divorce. Investors hate uncertainty. He tapped the screen to refresh the page, expecting to see the green numbers stabilize. Instead, his eyes widened. The stock wasn't just fluctuating, it was hemorrhaging. In a matter of minutes, the valuation had dropped by 14%. That's impossible, Gregory muttered, his face turning a shade of pale that matched the linen napkins. There's no news, no scandals. Why is everyone selling? Maybe it's a technical error, Juliana suggested, though she looked more worried about her renovation budget than the company's health. Gregory grabbed his phone and dialed his chief financial officer, Marcus. The call went to voicemail twice before Marcus finally picked up. He sounded like a man who had just seen a ghost. Gregory, where are you? The office is in a complete panic. We're being hit by a coordinated short sale attack from an offshore entity we've never heard of, the SV Holding Group. They're dumping millions of shares and simultaneously calling in every high interest debt we owe.
The SV Group? Gregory shouted, standing up so abruptly his chair screeched against the marble. I've never even heard of them. We don't owe them anything. Our debt is held by the European Central Bank and the Royal Bank of Luxembourg. That's the problem, Marcus shouted back over the sound of shouting traders in the background. The Royal Bank of Luxembourg just sold our entire debt portfolio to SV Holding for pennies on the dollar. And Gregory, they've invoked the insecurity clause. They're demanding full repayment of the $300 million expansion loan by the end of the business day. If we don't pay, they seize the collateral. The collateral? Gregory whispered, his legs going weak. The collateral is the company itself. And this house. Evelyn stood up, her teacup rattling in its saucer. Gregory, what is happening? Who is SV Holding? I don't know, Gregory roared. Call the lawyers. Call everyone. This has to be an illegal takeover. While the Dalton household descended into chaos, 40 floors above the city in a penthouse suite that smelled of expensive lilies and old money, Clara sat in a plush velvet chair. She was no longer wearing a cheap wool coat. She wore a deep emerald silk dress that made her eyes look like dangerous gems. A stylist was finishing her hair, and a team of 3 assistants hovered nearby with tablets. Uncle Arthur stood by the window, looking out at the skyline. The first strike has landed, Clara. The Daltons are currently losing $40,000 a second. Gregory is currently calling his bank, but he'll find that his priority status has been revoked. Clara took a sip of chilled mineral water. He thinks he's fighting a market trend. He doesn't realize he's fighting a person. He never realized who you were, Arthur said, turning to look at her with pride. Your father, my brother, always said you were the most patient of us all. To live in that house for 12 years, to endure that woman's insults and that man's neglect, all to ensure that when you finally struck, there would be nothing left for them to rebuild. It wasn't just about patience, Arthur, Clara said, her voice cool and level. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to see if Gregory Dalton loved the woman or the convenience. Last night, when he told me I was training wheels for his real life, that was the moment I stopped being his wife and started being his creditor. A young man in a sharp suit entered the room. Miss Sterling Vane, the board of directors at Dalton International has just called an emergency meeting. They are terrified. They want to know if the mystery buyer is willing to negotiate. Clara stood up, her presence filling the room with a weight that would have terrified Gregory.
Tell them I don't negotiate with subordinates. Tell them the owner of SV Holding will be present at the court hearing for the debt transition on Friday. Until then, tell the banks to freeze every personal account associated with the Dalton name. I want Gregory to feel what it's like to have a pocket full of nothing." "And his mother?" the assistant asked. Clara paused, looking at the pearls Evelyn had demanded she return. They were sitting on the side table, real pearls, the ones Clara had secretly swapped for the heirlooms Evelyn thought she had taken. "Evelyn likes her status, Arthur," Clara said, her voice cool and level. "Contact the local country club and the charity boards. Inform them that the Dalton family is currently under investigation for massive financial insolvency. I want her social calendar to be as empty as Gregory's soul." As the assistant hurried away, Arthur smiled. "You're being very thorough, Clara," Clara said, walking toward the large mirror. She looked at the woman staring back, a woman who could buy and sell the entire street she had walked down the night before. "I'm just making sure that when he finally falls, he doesn't have a soft place to land." Back at the mansion, Gregory was screaming into his phone. Juliana was crying because her credit cards had just been declined at a boutique, and Evelyn was staring at a letter from the bank. The letter stated that the Dalton estate was no longer recognized as private property, but as an asset under active seizure. The invisible earthquake had started, and the ground was only going to keep shaking. For the first time since the case began, the courtroom was silent. Not the quiet of boredom or routine, but the charged electric silence of a room waiting for detonation. Maya sat calmly at the witness stand, fingers resting lightly on the thin folder she had placed before her. She didn't open it. She didn't touch it. She didn't even look at it. But everyone else did. The folder might as well have been a bomb. Ethan stared at it like it contained the end of his world. His mother looked like she'd swallowed nails. His brother nervously rubbed his wedding ring. The spectators leaned forward in their chairs. Judge Ramirez finally spoke. "Mrs. Grayson, you're prepared to submit evidence today, after all?" "Yes, Your Honor." Ethan's lawyer jumped to his feet. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular." Judge Ramirez gave him a death stare. "Sit down, Mr. Porter. You have objected enough today." He sank into his chair, defeated. Ethan's hands shook under the table. He knew Maya wasn't a liar. She didn't bluff. She never said things she didn't mean. So if she said she had proof, then she had proof. Maya opens the folder. Slowly, Maya lifted the folder and opened it toward the judge, not toward Ethan, not toward the courtroom, only toward the bench where truth belonged. Judge Ramirez adjusted her glasses and leaned forward. The first page was a printed transcript. The judge's eyebrows rose. "What is this?" she asked. Maya answered calmly. "And a recording, Your Honor." Ethan's heart dropped. The judge nodded at the bailiff. "Bring me a laptop." The bailiff moved quickly, setting up a small court laptop on the bench. Maya handed over a flash drive, crimson red, scratched slightly on one side, old but clearly important. Ethan recognized it instantly. He'd thrown it in the trash months ago, or so he thought. Maya never threw anything away without checking it first. The first recording begins. Judge Ramirez plugged the drive. A file labeled Audio 1 Laundry Room opened. Ethan's voice filled the courtroom instantly. "She's harmless. She's too dumb to fight back." Patricia gasped. Ethan surged forward. "That's fake! That—" Judge Ramirez froze him with a glare. "One more outburst, Dr. Grayson, and I will remove you." Ethan fell silent. The audio continued. Even if she leaves me someday, she'll never win anything. I'll bury her in court. Maya didn't flinch, but the courtroom shook with whispered disbelief. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. The second recording. The mistress. The judge clicked the next file. Label, audio 2, clinic office. A woman's voice entered the room, soft, flirty, unmistakably not Maya, Ethan's mistress. "When will she be gone, Ethan? I'm tired of hiding." Ethan's mother gasped so loudly it echoed. Ethan squeezed his eyes shut. The recording continued. "Soon. I already have the reports ready. I'll tell the court she has breakdowns. They always believe the husband." Gasps, whispers, stares. Maya watched Ethan closely. This time he couldn't meet her eyes. The judge looks sick. Judge Ramirez closed the laptop briefly, visibly disturbed. "Mrs. Grayson, how long have you had this?" "About a year, Your Honor." "A year? And you didn't bring it forward sooner?" Maya lowered her gaze. "No, Your Honor. I hoped my husband would stop. I didn't want to destroy him." Ethan flinched as if slapped. Maya lifted her head again. "But when he tried to take my sons away, I realized he'd never stop unless I ended it myself." The judge nodded slowly, respectfully. She wasn't just listening now, she was understanding. The financial documents. "Next," Maya said quietly, sliding forward another set of pages. "These are bank statements from accounts Ethan opened under false names." Ethan's lawyer sprung up. "Objection!" "Overruled. Sit down." Maya continued. "They show unreported income from the clinic, cash payments taken off the books, and transfers to offshore accounts." The judge flipped through the documents, her expression darkening. "How did you obtain these?" she asked. Maya looked Ethan dead in the eyes. "I used to manage the clinic books before he replaced me with his mistress. I copied everything before I left." Ethan's jaw dropped open. Patricia froze like stone. The spectators whispered loudly now, unable to contain shock. The contract that ends him. Finally, Maya pulled out a single document, crisp, official-looking, with a signature at the bottom. Ethan saw it, and his face went ghost white. "No, Maya, don't." The judge adjusted her glasses again. "What is this?" Maya spoke steadily. "This is a contract Ethan signed 7 years ago." The judge read the first line. Her eyes widened. "This is a shareholder agreement." "Yes, Your Honor," Maya confirmed. "This says Mrs. Grayson owns 62% of the clinic." The room erupted. Ethan stood up so suddenly his chair fell backward. That's not... She tricked me." Maya shook her head. "No, you signed it. You were rushing to leave for a golf trip. I told you to read it. You said, and I quote, 'I don't need to read anything you give me.'" Ethan collapsed back into his seat, clutching his head. His lawyer couldn't look at him. His mother looked horrified. His brother slid lower in his chair. Judge Ramirez leaned forward. "Dr. Grayson, is this your signature?" Ethan swallowed. "Yes," he whispered. "And you willingly signed this document?" It was years ago. I didn't—" "Yes or no?" the judge demanded. Ethan broke. "Yes." The mistress makes a surprise entrance. Suddenly, the courtroom door slammed open. Everyone turned. His mistress stood there, red-eyed, panicked, holding her purse like a shield. I can't do this anymore. I have to say something." Ethan's face twisted in betrayal. "No!" But she cut him off, trembling. He told me to lie. He paid people. He forged things. He said he'd ruin her. I didn't think he'd go this far." The courtroom absolutely erupted. Judge Ramirez pounded the gavel. "Order! Order!" But the mistress wasn't done. "He said she'd lose the kids. He said he'd make her look crazy. I'm sorry, Maya. I didn't want—" Ethan bolted upright. "Get out!" "Dr. Grayson, sit down," the judge roared. He sat, shaking, broken, exposed. The courtroom felt different now. Heavy, charged, almost suffocating. It wasn't just the evidence, it was the shift. The power dynamic had inverted so quickly that even the air didn't know how to react. Ethan, who walked into this divorce confident, polished, and arrogant, now sat hunched forward, sweating, eyes empty. Maya, who entered quiet and underestimated, now sat upright, composed, anchored. Patricia Grayson fanned herself with a trembling hand. Ethan's brother stared at the floor. The spectators watched with gleaming eyes. They weren't here for drama anymore. They were here for justice, and Maya was about to deliver the rest of it. Judge Ramirez reclaims control. "Mrs. Grayson," Judge Ramirez said, fighting to maintain composure after the chaos, "is there anything further you wish to present?" "Yes, Your Honor," Maya said. Patricia whispered harshly. What more could she possibly have? Maya opened the folder again and pulled out a second stack of documents, thicker than the first. "Your Honor," Maya said clearly, "these records outline the last 5 years of fraudulent medical billing performed by Dr. Grayson at his clinic." Ethan's lawyer jerked his head up. "Your Honor, I object." "On what grounds?" Judge Ramirez snapped. His voice cracked. I don't know yet." "Then sit down." He sat. Everyone leaned forward as the judge flipped through the pages. The silence was broken only by the turning of paper. The judge murmured to herself as she read, "Double charging patients, billing dead patients, false insurance claims, unapproved procedures." Her expression hardened with every line. "Mrs. Grayson," Judge Ramirez said slowly, "how did you obtain these documents? They are extremely detailed." Maya clasped her hands in her lap. "Before Ethan replaced me with his mistress, I handled all the clinic accounting. I kept copies of everything. I also noticed abnormalities and began documenting them." "So you knew this was happening years ago?" "Yes," Maya said quietly, "but I was still trying to save our marriage. I thought he would change." Ethan groaned, burying his face in his hands. "You're lying. Maya, you're lying." Judge Ramirez glared daggers at him. "One more outburst, Dr. Grayson, and I'll have you removed from this court." Ethan leaned back, defeated. "The folder holds more than numbers." Maya continued, "There's more, Your Honor." She slid the next set of papers forward, a collection of emails. "These are messages between Ethan and his mistress. They discussed how to manipulate the judge, the witnesses, and even how to falsify the psychological report on me." Ethan grabbed the edge of the table, knuckles white. His mother gasped. You forged medical reports, Ethan?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Judge Ramirez read the first email aloud, her voice trembling with disgust. "Ethan, she's too emotional. Get the psychologist to put that in her report. He owes me a favor." "Mistress, done. He said he'll write whatever you want." The entire courtroom groaned with disbelief. Ethan's reputation shattered in a single sentence. The courtroom door opens again. As if the universe wasn't done with Ethan, the doors creaked open. A man in a sharp gray suit stepped inside, confident, calm, authoritative. Everyone turned. Ethan squinted in confusion, but Maya recognized him instantly. It was Mr. Rowan, her father's former law partner, a retired attorney, a well-respected name in the legal world.
He walked straight to the judge. "Your Honor," he said, presenting a card, "my name is Benjamin Rowan. I'm here on behalf of Mrs. Grayson." The courtroom gasped. Ethan's lawyer nearly choked. You have legal representation?" he sputtered at Maya. Rowan smiled politely. "She has had representation for weeks. She simply didn't need me yet." Ethan's face twisted. "You planned this," he whispered to Maya. "You planned all of this." Maya looked at him with calm clarity. "No, Ethan, I prepared for this. There's a difference." His fists shook on the table. The final blow. Her identity. Judge Ramirez closed the folder, exhaling slowly. "Your Honor, Mrs. Grayson, I'm beginning to suspect you're not the unqualified housewife you've been portrayed as." Maya nodded softly. "That's correct, Your Honor." "Then please explain who you are." Maya inhaled gently. "My full name is Maya Rowan Grayson. Before I married Ethan, I was a certified forensic accountant. I worked for my father's law firm and specialized in corporate fraud investigations." The courtroom gasped again. Even the stenographer nearly dropped her equipment. Ethan stared at her like she was a stranger. Maya continued, "I left my career because Ethan," she glanced at him, "did not want me working. He insisted I stay home. He said a wife should be seen, not heard." Patricia Grayson covered her mouth. Maya reached into the folder and pulled out the final document. "My father passed away 8 years ago," she said, her voice softening. "He left behind a private trust." She placed a sleek black binder on the stand. "I am the sole beneficiary." Judge Ramirez blinked. "How much is in the trust, Mrs. Grayson?" Maya met her eyes. $28 million. The room fell into a stunned, deafening silence. Ethan looked like he'd been physically struck. His jaw dropped open, his eyes widened in disbelief, his body leaned back involuntarily. "You're rich," he whispered, voice cracking. Maya nodded. "I always was." Ethan's face twisted with realization. You let me treat me like this when you had—" "Yes," Maya said quietly, "because I loved you, because I believed you could be better, because I wanted our family to work." Her next words were sharper. "But you saw my kindness as weakness." Ethan trembled. His arrogance was gone. His control was gone. His lies were gone. Maya's truth stood taller than his entire empire. Judge Ramirez closed the folder, exhaling slowly. "Mrs. Grayson, your evidence is overwhelming. I will need time to process the magnitude of what you've submitted." She turned to Ethan, her voice as cold as winter. "Dr. Grayson, based on what I've seen so far, your license, your assets, and your freedom, all of them are at risk." Ethan's chest rose and fell rapidly. He was coming undone. Court adjourned. "We will reconvene tomorrow," Judge Ramirez said. "Court is adjourned." The gavel slammed. Maya stood calmly. Rowan patted her shoulder proudly. People whispered in awe. Ethan looked broken. As Maya walked past him, he whispered, "Maya, please, don't do this to me." She stopped, turned just enough for him to see her eyes. "I'm not doing anything to you, Ethan," she said quietly. "You did all of this to yourself." And she walked away. Tomorrow, everything would fall apart for him. Everything. There are days in a person's life that change everything. Days that break illusions, expose truths, and redraw the lines of power. For Ethan Grayson, today was that day. The courtroom was full long before the hearing started. Word had spread across town. A respected doctor exposed for fraud by his silent wife. Everyone wanted to witness the fall. Maya entered quietly, holding a slim leather folder. Her posture was calm. Her eyes were clear. Her energy was unshakable. Ethan entered minutes later. He looked destroyed, pale, sunken eyes, hands trembling as he clutched the table, his suit wrinkled from a night without sleep. His lawyer whispered frantically, "We can still salvage this, maybe negotiate." But Ethan didn't respond. He couldn't. Everything he built was slipping through his fingers. Judge Ramirez arrives. "Court is in session," she announced, taking her seat. She didn't look at Ethan first. She didn't look at the audience. She looked at Maya. "Mrs. Grayson," Judge Ramirez said, "I spent several hours reviewing the documents, audio recordings, financial statements, and contracts you submitted." Maya nodded softly. "I also consulted with federal auditors, child welfare advocates, and the state medical board." Ethan stiffened. "And after reviewing the evidence, I have reached a decision." Ethan's mother clutched his son's arm. His brother held his breath. The spectators leaned forward. Maya remained still. The custody decision. Judge Ramirez looked directly at Ethan. "Dr. Grayson, your attempts to manipulate this court, falsify medical reports, emotionally abuse your wife, and exploit your minor children's welfare are reprehensible." Ethan bowed his head, shame finally cracking through his arrogance. "Therefore," the judge said firmly, "full custody of the children is granted to Mrs. Maya Grayson." Patricia gasped. Ethan's hands shook violently. "No, please, not my boys." Judge Ramirez continued, "You will receive supervised visitation only, pending psychological evaluation." Tears welled in Ethan's eyes. He never imagined crying in a courtroom, but here he was, breaking piece by piece. Maya inhaled softly, but did not smile. She wasn't here for revenge. She was here for justice. The financial blow. Judge Ramirez turned her attention back to the files. "Regarding the marital assets, Dr. Grayson, your financial misconduct has grave consequences." She flipped a page. "The state has opened a formal investigation into your billing practices and offshore accounts." Ethan's breath hitched. "Your personal accounts will remain frozen until the investigation concludes. Your clinic will be placed under temporary receivership." Ethan staggered, gripping the table for balance. "Your Honor," his lawyer stammered, "that is—" "Be silent," she snapped. Ethan's world collapsed further. "And finally," Judge Ramirez said, "regarding the ownership of the clinic." The courtroom held its breath. Maya sat still, hands folded neatly. "Mrs. Grayson's majority share contract is legally binding and fully enforceable." Ethan's head shot up. His eyes pleaded with her silently, for mercy, for forgiveness, for something. But Maya didn't return his gaze. "Mrs. Grayson is hereby recognized as the majority owner of Grayson Family Clinic," the judge declared. Ethan shook his head slowly. My clinic? Maya, please." His voice trembled so intensely it barely resembled him. Maya didn't move. "The mistress testifies against him." The courtroom doors opened. Everyone turned. His mistress entered, wearing a modest black dress and an expression of deep regret. She walked to the witness stand without waiting to be called. "I want to speak," she said tearfully. Ethan whispered, "No, don't." But she was already sworn in. "I'm sorry. To the judge. I lied for him. He told me to help him destroy Maya." She broke down crying. "He said he'd ruin her. He said she was weak. He said he'd get the kids and throw her out." Ethan covered his face with his hands. The judge's voice was ice. "Noted. And you may face charges for your involvement. Court will contact you." The mistress nodded, sobbing. Ethan looked at her with betrayal, the same betrayal he inflicted on Maya for years.
Maya's turn to speak. Judge Ramirez turned back to Maya. Mrs. Grayson, you've remained poised and respectful despite everything. Before I finalize this ruling, do you wish to say anything? The courtroom went silent. Maya rose slowly. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't point fingers. She didn't shout. She simply spoke the truth. Your Honor, she began, I never wanted any of this. I married Ethan because I loved him. I supported him. I trusted him. Ethan looked at her, tears streaming down his face. But he used my silence to control me. He mistook my kindness for weakness. He tried to take my children, my dignity, my future. She paused. And if I didn't stand up now, he would have succeeded. The judge nodded solemnly. Maya continued, I don't want revenge. I don't want to destroy him. I just want a life where my children grow up safe, loved, and free from manipulation. Her voice softened. That's all. The courtroom was silent, truly silent. Not a cough, not a whisper, not a breath. Everyone felt the weight of her words. The final verdict. Judge Ramirez lifted her gavel. Mrs. Grayson, as of today, you are granted full custody, sole ownership of the marital home, majority ownership of the clinic, immediate protection order, full legal authority over all assets Ethan tried to hide. And Dr. Grayson, your actions will be referred to the state attorney's office. The gavel slammed. Court is adjourned. Ethan breaks completely. As people began to stand and exit, Ethan remained seated, shaking, broken. Maya, he whispered, reaching out weakly. She paused, just once, enough for him to see her eyes. Not angry, not vengeful, not hateful, just done. Goodbye, Ethan, she said softly. He collapsed forward, sobbing into his hands. The man who mocked her silence now drowned in his own. Maya walks out with her head high. Rowan walked beside her. Strangers whispered admiration, some nodded respectfully, but Maya didn't see them. At the exit, her two sons waited for her, held by a court guardian. Mom, they cried, running to her. She knelt, gathering them in her arms, tears finally warming her cheeks. It's over. We're free now. And for the first time in years, Maya felt like she could breathe. The cold wind brushed past Maya as she stepped out of the courthouse, her two sons holding her hands tightly. The doors closed behind them, shutting out 15 years of pain, manipulation, and fear. Ahead of them was something Maya had forgotten she could have, a future she controlled. Her older son, Aiden, looked up at her with wide eyes full of hope. Mom, are we really going home with you? Forever? Maya knelt to his level, brushing a strand of hair from his face. Yes, she whispered with a warm smile, forever. Her younger son, Liam, wrapped his arms around her neck. I'm glad, he murmured. I missed you every day. Maya hugged them both tightly, tears stinging her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief, from freedom, from victory. After a moment, Rowan stepped beside them, clearing his throat. You did beautifully today, he told her gently. Your father would be proud. Maya stood, squeezing her boy's hands. No, she replied softly. He'd be relieved. He always told me I deserved better. Rowan nodded, his expression softening. You have a meeting with the financial auditor tomorrow. After everything presented in court, Ethan will likely face charges. You should prepare for the clinic transfer paperwork as well. Maya exhaled slowly. There was still a long road ahead. Investigations, media attention, property transitions. But for the first time, those things didn't scare her. They empowered her. "I'm ready," she said firmly, and she meant it. Back at home, a new strength appears. When they reached the house, her house now, the boys ran inside excitedly, thrilled to finally return to the rooms they were kept from during the court battle. Maya stood in the doorway for a moment, surveying the living room. This place used to feel like a prison, a space where she tiptoed, constantly afraid of Ethan's anger. But now it felt like possibility. She stepped inside and breathed deeply. Fresh air. Her air. She set down her purse and removed the folder that had changed her entire life, the folder filled with proof, truth, and courage. She placed it in a drawer. She no longer needed it. The first night of freedom. That night, she tucked her sons into bed. "Mom, can we sleep with you tonight?" Liam asked shyly. Maya smiled. "Of course." They curled beside her, warm and peaceful. For the first time in years, they weren't anxious, watching the door, waiting for their father's footsteps. Aiden whispered, "Mom, you were so brave." Maya felt her heart swell. "I didn't feel brave. I was scared. But being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what's right anyway." Aiden nodded sleepily. "You're the bravest person I know." Maya kissed their foreheads. As they drifted off, she stared at the ceiling, letting everything settle. She had been silent for so long that speaking truth felt like rediscovering her own voice. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, she slept without fear. Meanwhile, Ethan faces his reckoning. Across town, Ethan sat in a small apartment, the one he'd secretly rented for his mistress. She wasn't there anymore. He rubbed his temples, his breath unsteady. His phone buzzed endlessly. Voicemails from lawyers, messages from medical board officials, financial freezes, reporters calling, his mother crying, his brother panicking. His hands shook as he scrolled through the chaos. He'd once believed he was invincible, untouchable, superior. But Maya had outmaneuvered everything he thought he controlled. He replayed the words she said in court. "You saw my kindness as weakness." Ethan covered his face, shaking. He had destroyed himself, one selfish decision at a time. And Maya, the quiet wife he underestimated, had saved herself. 1 week later, Maya reclaims her life. The next week was a whirlwind. She met with the medical board. They praised her for coming forward with evidence. She met with the financial auditors. They confirmed her documentation was flawless. She visited the clinic. Employees stood when she entered. Some clapped, some cried. Some thanked her for revealing what they were too afraid to speak about. Maya walked through the hallways, remembering when Ethan forbade her from stepping inside. Now she was the one holding the keys. At the office door once labeled Dr. Ethan Grayson, she removed the nameplate. When Rowan stepped behind her, he spoke softly. "What would you like the new one to say?" Maya hesitated, then smiled. Owner and Executive Director, Maya Rowan Grayson, a title she had always deserved. Healing begins. With the legal chaos stabilizing, Maya focused on her children. They saw a therapist. They returned to school. They regained laughter, curiosity, joy. One evening, while cooking dinner, Maya received a message from Ethan. "Please, I want to see the boys. I'm getting help. I'm trying. Please let me prove I can be better." Maya stared at the message for a long moment, then typed, "Follow the court order. Heal yourself first. Then we'll see." Not forgiveness, not cruelty. Boundaries, healthy ones. The final scene. Her new strength shines. Months later, Maya sat at the park watching her sons play on the swings. A warm breeze lifted her hair. Children's laughter filled the air. Life, her life, felt peaceful. Rowan approached with a cup of tea. "You look happy," he said. Maya nodded. "I am." He sat beside her. "You know, most people couldn't survive what you went through. Most people would have broken." Maya smiled softly. "I did break, many times, but breaking doesn't mean ending. Sometimes it means rebuilding. And you rebuilt beautifully," he said. She watched her sons race across the playground, free and joyful. "Yes," she whispered, "I did." Rowan turned to her. "You think you'll ever marry again?" Maya laughed gently. "Maybe, someday. But next time I won't choose someone who mistakes my silence for weakness." Rowan chuckled. "Good." Maya looked at the sunset, warm and golden. "I found my voice, and I'll never lose it again." She wasn't silent because she was weak. She was silent because she was preparing.